The Rothert Family History and Genealogy, Part 2, Chapter 1, The Bill Rothert Family. Friedrich Wilhelm Rothert, a.k.a. Bill, was born March 4, 1840, less than 2 months after his parents were married in Louisville, Kentucky. His baptismal sponsor was William Rothert, his uncle. During the Civil War, Bill volunteered with the 42nd Regiment Indiana Infantry, organized at Evansville, Indiana, and was mustered in for a 3-year enlistment on October 9, 1861, under the command of Colonel James Gerard Jones. He was a private in Company H. Although Bill was in many battles, the two he talked about most were the Battle of Chickamauga on September 19th through 21st, and Missionary Ridge, November 25th, 1863. These battles, along with others, were referred to as the Battle of Lookout Mountain. It was during this campaign that Bill lost most of his hearing. He would later say the cannons were so loud you couldn't hear anything else. Possibly because of this injury, Bill was transferred to the Veteran Reserve Corps on November 13, 1864. Upon returning home, Bill worked as a cooper in the town of Holland. As well as being a farmer, Bill was also an exhorter and a local preacher for the German M.E. Church. He married Sophia Maria Feldwich on March 30, 1865. Together they had 9 children. Maria Helena was the first and was born January 10, 1866. She died sometime that same year. All of the other 8 children lived at least until young adulthood. They were Martin, born January 19, 1867, Heinrich Edward, born July 21, 1869, Emma Sophia, born October 2, 1871, Louis Heinrich, born June 12, 1874, Louisa Caroline, born January 3, 1877, Sophia Matilda, born October 26, 1879, Arthur Friedrich, born March 1, 1882, and Franklin John, born February 6, 1885. All 9 children were born on their farm just north of Holland. In 1886, the family moved to Dagonia Springs, Indiana, just outside Boonville, where Bill owned a store. Bill and Sophie spent the rest of their lives in this part of Indiana and were buried in Ebenezer Cemetery. Bill died September 3, 1928 at 88, and Sophie died October 31, 1909. Chapter 2, Bill and Sophie's Descendants. Martin Rothert was not given a middle name by his parents. As an adult, he added Washington as his middle name. He was the second child of Bill and Sophie and was born in 1867. In many ways, Martin was the historian of the Rothert family, Holland, Indiana, and the surrounding area for many years as he lived to be over 100, dying on May 18, 1967 in Fort Wayne. Martin was a school teacher most of his life. He taught in many one-room schoolhouses in his youth, eventually getting a degree from Indiana Normal School, what became Indiana University. He lived in Fort Wayne and taught German and Latin at Southside High School. After retiring from teaching, Martin sold books and other supplies to the school system. On June 16, 1897, Martin married Dorothea Margaret Gemlich in Boonville. Dolly, as she was known, was born in 1868 in Chandler, Indiana. Dolly and Martin had 5 children, with only 2 surviving to adulthood. A son was born September 3, 1898, and died September 4th. A second son, Carl William, was born September 21, 1899, in Boonville. Carl was first married to Jane Larsh Spalding. They were married in 1926 in Hillsdale, Michigan. They had 1 child, Larsh Martin, born December 25, 1932, in Fort Wayne. Carl and Jane were divorced in 1935. Larsh was married to Lois Ann Heckman Hanselman. Larsh, according to a letter from Martin, was in the Army in Germany in 1957. He died November 3, 1988, in Cle Elum, Washington. On February 11, 1939, Carl married Dulana Longfellow in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They had 3 children, William Carl, Susan Longfellow, and Frederick Wayne. In a letter written to his cousin Harvey on November 4, 1957, Martin describes his grandchildren thusly: Susie is in high school. She is an expert diver. Bill is 2 years older and is a cadet in the Naval Academy at Annapolis. And finally, Freddie is their baby, 9 years old, and he is some boy. Bill was married to Beverly Keough and had 2 daughters. His second wife was Lois Quackenbush. Bill is currently married to Mary Galbraith, a.k.a. Macy. Susan married Edward Myers. They have 1 son. Fred was married to Bonnie Sue Gerbers with one son from that union. Fred is currently married to Andrea Sanford Gilman. Bill and Fred live in Arizona, and Susan still resides in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Martin and Dolly Rothert's third child, a daughter, was born December 25, 1901, and died the same day. Their next son, Paul Philip, was born April 22, 1905 in Edinburgh, Indiana. He died in 1998. In another letter written to his cousin Florence on February 21, 1964, Martin writes about his sons again. Carl is manager of the local branch of the Chicago Motor Club. Paul is married but has no children. He is a military instructor in chemical warfare and is located in Korea. Martin and Dolly's fifth child, Edwin Gemlich, was born December 12, 1906 and died February 8, 1907. Martin's wife Dolly died in 1947. On October 19, 1949, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Martin married Louise Meyer. Ed and Emma. Bill and Sophie's second son, Ed, worked on the railroad in Mattoon, Illinois. At the time of his marriage, he was division accountant of the Peoria, Illinois division of the Illinois Central Railroad. He and his wife, Pearl Dorothy Hanson of Pennsylvania, married September 27, 1905, had one son, Harold Hanson, born October 12, 1906, in Mattoon. Harold was a World War II veteran and was married to Dr. Elaine Larson of Texas. Harold loved music and studied in Paris, France. He was a music teacher at Hanover College in Indiana, where he started several music groups during his tenure. Harold and his wife had no children. Harold died December 26, 1974, in Hanover, Indiana. His father, Ed, resigned from the railroad in 1914 due to failing health. He, his wife, and son had traveled to Baltimore, Maryland for chemotherapy for cancer of the face. He died the next year in Lake, Indiana on August 20, 1915. Emma Sophia, fourth child of Bill and Sophie, died in 1931 in Boonville. She is buried in Ebenezer Cemetery with her parents. Lou. Bill and Sophie's fifth child, Louis Henry, had 5 children with Amelia Catherine Smith. Amelia and Louis were married in 1904. George Edward was their first child, born May 18, 1905 in Gentryville, and died August 8, 1917 in Fort Branch. He is buried in the Walnut Cemetery in Fort Branch. The second child, Mary Margaret, known as Peggy to the family, was born January 21, 1907 in Gentryville, and died January 18, 1990 in Forest Hill, Maryland. Her married name was Bruner, and she lived in Baltimore, Maryland. Her husband died during World War II. Emma Elizabeth Rothert was the third child of Louis and Amelia. She was born February 15, 1909 in Gentryville, Indiana, and died November 1, 1932 in Fort Branch. The fourth child was Louis Henry Jr., a.k.a. Lou, who contributed many of the pictures and stories for this branch of the family. He was born May 23, 1912 in Gentryville. On July 30, 1942, he married Ruth Eloise Yearwood. Lou was a professor at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana for much of his career. They had one daughter, Mary Catherine, born 1943. The fifth child of Louis and Amelia was Frederick William, born November 8, 1914 in Poseyville. He was called Ted by his family because his older brother Lou called him Tedrick rather than Frederick as a child, and the name stuck. Ted was married to Amy Jewel Alexander and had 2 daughters. Louis's first wife, Amelia, died May 5, 1929 in Fort Branch, and on August 29, 1941, Louis married Hazel Hoare. Carrie and Tilly. Bill and Sophie's next child, Louisa Caroline, was a gifted pianist who died on March 7, 1896 in Boonville, at the age of 19 from pneumonia. Bill and Sophie's seventh child, Sophia Matilda, a.k.a. Tilly, was born on October 26, 1879, and married Clifford McVeigh. They had one child, Kenneth, born January 9, 1912. He married Wanda Brandon, and they had 2 children, Brandon and Janice. Arthur and Frank. Bill and Sophie's next child, Arthur Friedrich, was born March 1, 1882. He was married to Tess. Arthur was called Sport by his friends. He lived in Richland, Indiana, and it is told that there was at least one boy named after Arthur, first name Rothert. There is another story about Arthur. He owned a store, and one day a lady came in wanting a light bulb. Arthur reached overhead, unscrewed the light bulb from the ceiling, and sold it to the lady. As she left, he put the money in the cash register. Bill and Sophie's ninth and last child was Franklin John, born February 6, 1885. He never married and lived in Texas. Frank, as he was called, hated the water. However, one night when he was drinking with friends, he made the comment that when he died, he wanted to be buried at sea. When he died on March 15, 1957, in McAllen, Texas, his friends promptly had him buried at sea. The family was very distressed over this, as they were not told it was going to be done until it was complete, not giving the family members a chance to say goodbye. It was especially upsetting to the family because Frank was so terrified of water, but as his brother Martin said in a letter, after all, it was his wish. Chapter 3. Fred. Fred and Helena's sixth child, Johann Friedrich, also known as Fred, was born October 9, 1846, and was baptized in the St. Paul's Evangelical Church on November 8th. Fred was a farmer, a carpenter, and a barn builder. His farm was due north of the farm where he grew up. On January 16, 1887, Fred married Maria Elizabeth Hilgeman, known as Mary. Back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, hogs, though domesticated, were very aggressive, especially sows with litters. Mary was one of the few people who could enter a hog pen and then take care of sick or injured piglets, or even help a sow in labor without worry. That same sow or hog would probably have killed anyone else coming into the pen. Mary was born July 28, 1858, and died May 16, 1943. Fred passed September 5, 1926, and is buried at Holland Methodist Church Cemetery. Chapter 4. Fred and Mary's descendants. Fred and Mary had 5 children: Huldah Louise, Carl Friedrich Lewis, Enoch Henry, Ida Helen, and Martha Catherine. Huldah was born January 22, 1888. She was a school teacher her entire life, teaching mostly in small, rural, one-room schoolhouses. She was 19 when she got her first teaching job, earning $2 a day and paying 50 cents a day for room and board. In addition to the normal 3 R's, Huldah also taught German classes. In 1932, she earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from Oakland City College, Oakland City, Indiana. On March 18, 1916, Huldah married Homer Irving Cooper. He was born December 6, 1884, and died December 20, 1919, leaving her to raise their daughter Gladys Elizabeth, born December 5, 1917, alone. Huldah died on December 11, 1981, in Dale. Her daughter Gladys was also a school teacher. She married Carl Ford Boren on September 26, 1942, in Jackson, Missouri. Carl died July 28, 1980, and Gladys died September 16, 2005, and is interred at Park Lawn Cemetery in Evansville. Carl Friedrich Lewis, or Charles, was born January 31, 1890, and passed away on August 16, 1902. The third child of Fred and Mary was Enoch Henry, born September 23, 1891, and died June 30, 1933. He served in World War I. Ida Helen was born April 21, 1893, and christened August 20th. Huldah and Gladys moved in with Ida after Homer's death. Ida lived in Henningsburg and helped Huldah raise Gladys. She did not marry and passed away January 21, 1975, in Henningsburg, and is buried at the St. Paul's United Church of Christ Cemetery. The last child of Fred and Mary was Martha Catherine, born November 1895 and died in 1926. She is also buried at the St. Paul's United Church of Christ Cemetery.